It's the first time I've had an escape door right behind me. That's a good start. After this, let me ask you a question. How many people did not fall this winter? Who didn't fall this winter? Raise your hands. I have taken 2 power falls this winter that I cannot believe I actually took. I did the 2 falls where your legs go over your head and fell on my back so hard. I thought, I can't believe all the things that I've taken for hockey to hold me together absolutely paid for itself because I had my hands busy each time. It was that light snow over the ice. That light dusting, I got creamed twice. I can't believe nobody saw either one, which took the fun out of it. I thought I broke my wrist one time, and that held together. So it's just kind of interesting. Having falls happen can really set back your life. If you can't, I took off, threw nothing out either time. Thought I whacked my wrist one time, and praise the Lord, I'm held together well enough to have survived this. It's amazingly uncoordinating feeling. This has been quite an interesting time right now. I want to, first of all, I've had huge things happen from these Skype patients. I am just overwhelmed with, I want to say hi to my Skype patients everywhere. I never really thought this was going to be a part of my life. I made a list: New Zealand, Arizona, the UK, Sweden, the Netherlands. The things that you people have gotten used to, these people around the world. I want to say hi to the lady in Norway. She passed 32 gallstones, and she thinks this was the coolest thing she ever saw in her entire life. So this Skype thing I want to say hi to Wade from Florida. I was on the phone with him last week. Off the liver transplant list in 4 weeks. 70 grams of silymarin, salt minerals, supported his platelets, supported his red blood cells, and him and his wife are on the phone. I'm going to give you a secret to the Skype patients. The farther away they live, the faster they get better. So it's been overwhelming, and the stories that I've heard have inspired me because these people have no hope out there with what's taking place in medicine. They have absolutely none. It's a catastrophe. So I want to make sure I acknowledge all these people, which has been surprisingly, it's really clogged up my schedule. It has not been fun. It's been difficult. It's added a lot of stress to Kelly and Amy and the gals in the back and myself. But it seems to have been worth it because these people have been very excited about what's happening. Stuff that we get used to doing here. So anyway, this was a special time. This was the most influential man in my life, Dr. Versendahl. This was the guy that in my professional career changed more of what I've done than nobody's had the impact on me that this guy had on me. Now this guy, he got killed in a car accident on February 27th. This was in Michigan. He got killed in a head-on collision. And the profession is shocked, absolutely shocked. It was a head-on collision in Michigan. It was on the news in Bruce Township. Dr. Dobbins, he had a heart attack and he dropped dead. He was 62 years old. The pillars in this profession, he has been lecturing for 25 years for standard process, 42 weeks. And I've talked to this gentleman. I was with him in Phoenix in July, and I had suggested to him politely, I think you should look at a couple of my lectures because I'd like you to learn some things, what I'm doing with the heart. there's some special things, these clotting factors that nobody's really dealing with. So when he dropped dead at 62, Kelly and I are going to lecture in August in the Grand Traverse Resort to the physicians. I'm taking his place as the headliner. They expect 250 doctors there from the Midwest. I'm taking his place to talk about the heart in front of his fans with something that he misread. It's going to be a strange, so there's going to be no lecture in August because I'm supposed to do the physicians. So I'm going to skip August for the first time. The next lecture will not be till December 3rd. So I will have some interesting stories, I'm sure, dealing with the doctors, which is going to be I'll have some interesting stuff to talk about. So between Dr. Versendahl, Dr. Dobbins, everybody's staring at me now saying, all right, it's time for you to lecture to these guys. I've enjoyed lecturing to you. I've not really wanted to talk to the physicians that much because de-brainwashing them, I have really no interest in after 33 years. You want to believe stuff that doesn't make any sense, you're fine. Let me ask a question because I have this written down here. This is live, no setup. How many people in this crowd think the Affordable Health Care Act is more affordable than the one you just had? Raise your hand. All right? How many people think the Affordable Health Care is an unaffordable catastrophe? Raise your hand. Two.
Mine went up $500 a month.
$500 a month. Anybody gone up more than that?
My daughter's doubled.
Your daughter's doubled. And these idiots get on TV and trying to tell you what a deal you just got. So I'm telling you, this election's coming up in November, and I'd throw every one of these idiots out. Every single, you people that are retired, if you're not on the phone rattling the cages, you should be ashamed of yourself. They're stealing your country and forcing you to pay to have it stolen. This is a catastrophe. The stories that I'm getting right now in my office in the middle of cancer treatments, getting cut, the rug pulled out from them, cut off, unbelievable what I'm hearing. And to watch these idiots get on TV and act like there's something great happening, this is a catastrophe. And when I say this, which I had to clarify, this automatically makes me a pro-George Bush guy. I thought he was an idiot, and I didn't think anybody could make Bush look good, but it's almost unbelievable. So I have no problem saying this. It's time to start taking a good look. If you don't take it, you are this close to having this country go down the rest of the drain. It's not far away. It is not far away. This is the lecture that we're going to do. We didn't put up where it's going to be. My part is going to be new understanding about viruses. So anybody that watched the autoimmune lecture, these doctors better buckle up, because when I get done with the autoimmune lecture, that's what I'm going to do it on, all these viruses. And my part is also how to spot the inflammatory markers of heart disease. So this will be kind of exciting. It's going to be a change. So Kelly is glad that we're going to get a break for the summer. Memorable cases, too. I like this. This is kind of good because I enjoy talking about what comes in the office because nobody believe it. You wouldn't believe anything that we saw unless I, talked about it because it's crazy, actually. I appreciate Dr. Jeff. He's going to be addressing common female conditions, so you can whine to him about all your female conditions. I will discuss the male conditions. Dr. Jeff, buckle up for this one because there's going to be some crabbiness going on in that room. In that Blues Brother thing with that net in front you could throw the bottles at? We could. I have to do a shameless plug because straightening out if you want to know what a real adjustment's like, you've asked Meryl Davis what it was like to get an Olympic adjustment when nobody could fix her. I won't go into the details about what they did to her, but it was a mess. She got a real Dr. 10 adjustment right before she went to the Olympics. And this is kind of funny. You know, with all the fear, remember the fear card, oh, everybody's going to blow up. I said, you're going to be fine. I said, there won't be any problems there. Putin's got an iron fist. He's got a hand on everything. There's nothing going to go wrong. So Scott's been a patient a long time. He won the silver. He won the gold last time. I'm going to play hockey with him one day. I said to Scott, I need to get a quick picture of you. In the hall, he said, sure. I said, if anything happens to you in Russia, I'm going to sell this on eBay and make a fortune off it. So I said one thing to Scott and something completely different to Meryl. That was funny. He says now that he's retired, he said, look, I want to play hockey with you one day, and I would like to take him out to see what he's like on the ice, because I imagine he's an incredible skater. Well, as the world tightens up, I got my first banned lecture off of YouTube. I have been censored on YouTube with one lecture. We got extra copies at the office. It's free to sign out. If you want to know what happened, you just watch it. It's at the end. What took this lecture off YouTube was what I said at the end. You'll find it to be an interesting ending. So that's the first one. I don't know what's going to happen after tonight. I got no loo to start the car. After this interesting winter, global warming will cause more rapes. Now, how much more desperate these people can get than this, I really don't have any clue how you could get much more desperate. It's because of the bikinis. Robberies, assaults. If you don't pay us to breathe, there's going to be more crime. It's unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. The New England Journal of Medicine editor for 2 decades, 20 years, the most prestigious journal, she said, it is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over my 2 decades as an editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. They're lying to you. When you watch all this stuff on TV and all these doctors, you got to take this, you got to take this. It's researched. They have fabricated everything. And that's the New England Journal of Medicine telling you that. I did not make that up. Unbelievable. This is the father of Ray. This is my father, Ray Tent. This is how to make $1 gazillion. Okay? So this is what I'm going to show you what $1 gazillion, what's it like. All right. I want you to understand. My dad, on his right leg, he's had polio since he was 17. It's this big around. He's got a stick on his right leg. He's had a knee replacement on his good leg that he wore out limping. He's wore out the knee replacement. So to keep him calm, he's on a Xanax to not rile up the girls there, because he will. I put him on a Xanax. And when he falls going to the bathroom, he's 106/64. So he falls, they pick him up, they call me, we're taking him to St. Mary's, one of my favorite hospitals. And so your dad's going, so I get to St. Mary's. They've done a CAT scan, a chest x-ray, an EKG. And they said, well, now we're going to do a radioactive dye study, an ultrasound, and an echo. I said, who's the doctor? Dr. Padima or something. Nice Indian woman. I said, get her on the phone. So gets her on the phone. I said, look, he's 88 years old. We're only here because you got his blood pressure too low, and he falls every time he tries to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. I said, and you guys are scared because every time you go home, all you do is watch lawyer commercials all day, and constantly, everybody and his brother's a lawyer, and I'll sue my brother, and I'll sue my sister, and he's a great guy, and he's a wonderful guy. We'll sue everybody. So now when you guys go places, everybody runs 8 million tests on you for nothing. I said, he's 88 years old, it's me and my brother, there's nothing wrong with him, send him home. And you know what she said? Okay. Pack them up, bring the truck around, we're out of here. So when you sit there and you let them push you around, can I give you a secret? I have these, I gotta look this crowd over first. Indian doctors are really easy to push around. They don't argue. You ever seen an Indian argue? You ever seen one raised? They're going to laugh at me because I have India patients, all kind. I have patients straight from India that speak no English, and they're going to laugh when this is translated to them. They don't argue, and they don't yell. As they push you to do something, it's very easy to talk them out of it. It's not hard at all. It's simple. So it took a very short conversation, because by the time they got done, and I said, look, he's 106 over 64. I want him, I went back to Sunrise, he's at Haggerty on Sunrise. I said, look, I want him at 150 over 90. I don't want him at 106 over 64. 150 over 90 is what he works at, period. Since that visit, last December, they've changed, and they said now everybody should be, anything under that should be left alone. That's the official, right now, that is the official blood pressure to ignore. They have medicated you people to death because you're afraid of the doctor. So, through the years, in 1960, it was anything over 100 plus your age. If you're 80, 180 over 100, that was fine. 1980, 160 over 100. Anything over that. 140 over 90 was 1990. Then, and these are the pharmaceutical companies peddling this stuff to you. This isn't the doctors. Then 2014, and all these old people do is sleep, sit in a chair, and fall down on that number. They're fat, their arteries are clogged. Most of them have never done an honest day's work in their life. They sit in a chair. So now it's 150 over 90. They realized what a catastrophe it was, but that's a zillion dollars later. A zillion dollars later. Now stay tuned for this in the future. I just wanted to show you that the more metals that's in your brain, the more you're going to attract EMF radiation. The more metals that are in your brain, the more you're going to be an antenna. I'm going to cover that down the road. That's going to be probably next year. I'm saving all my heavy metal stuff, and it's going to be an interesting lecture. That'll probably be next spring, actually. Scotland just passed an interesting law, which I thought was a preview of things to come. They just passed a law. Every kid born in Scotland is going to get a state minder from birth. So the state's going to oversee your children. If you got your shots or not, maybe he's a little rambunctious, but we're going to come and visit you. We're going to take over the rights of your child and do whatever the state tells us to do. I tell you, I could do a tap dance on this stage that my kids are 22 and 23. You folks starting this journey, you are going to be in for a battle that I don't even think, I hope you're tough enough to take. I am done with this battle. Your battle is going to be absolute incredible what they're going to do to your children if you let them. Well, what did it say last on ABC News this weekend? Autism's going up faster than the stock market. Up 30% in 2 years. They claim we're down to 1 out of 29 kids right now. And you watch, 5-10 years, it'll be 1 out of 3. Somebody is ruining your children right in front of you. I have to put this up. Testosterone. We're going to talk about this later. Excess abdominal fat. I want you to picture what the men look like with those pot bellies. Loss of insulin sensitivity and atherosclerosis. This oversight with this synthetic testosterone that everybody's taking is causing needless heart attacks and strokes. I've lost one of my best patients. I'm going to say it, Fred. I was a great patient. Fred had a fatal heart attack taking testosterone. His family will see this. He was a bachelor. I've lost Dan has had a stroke on one side of his body. So my patients are starting to stroke out on these testosterone medications, just like the women did on the estrogen. I'll talk about this. We're going to show you how to run some blood tests on this. Pushing my stomach in, raising testosterone can push your stomach down. So all these men are getting strokes and heart attacks from testosterone. I'm tired of losing patients from that. Despite majority opposition, GMO corn gets the green light. Despite majority they're going to put an insecticide in the corn. They're treating you like a bug. You're being treated, they're poisoning your food intentionally. And when they say no, my question is, who are these people? Who is the person that says, I never get to the person? It's always his associate or something. I know not. Who would put an insecticide in our food? Well, Monsanto. Now, this is very important. Pay attention. Glyphosate, this is going to segue into a Skype patient. Glyphosate is capable of driving estrogen receptor mediated breast cancer within the infinitesimal parts per trillion range. Everybody in this room has eaten Roundup. I know all of you are going to tell me that you didn't. You're completely full of baloney. You have absolutely all consumed Roundup. That's why they can't play dodgeball in school anymore, because there's nobody tough enough to play dodgeball. They had to get rid of the diving boards. You can't play tag or anything. Somebody will get hurt. You're raising a feminized group of men that are turning into ladies right in front of you. Right in front of you. Parts per trillion. Now, Wings-Babcock cites millions of dollars in injured players. This was in the Free Press. He used it 3 times. Millions. Tom Wilson called me some years ago and asked me some questions. Why are my athletes hurt all the time? Glyphosate is known to inhibit the P450 enzyme. There's your detoxification pathway. That's why all your kids and all your friends have got drunk driving tickets. And if anybody should have had a drunk driving ticket, it was me and Ron. My best friends in the front row. I'll guarantee you, if you guys came back in 72, 73, me and the boys, we all made it home. And I will guarantee you, we partied harder than your kid. Correct? Are we making that up? Am I exaggerating? Everybody made it home. So today, you guys can't detoxify anything because your pathways are plugged up. So all these drunk driving tickets is because you can't process alcohol. That's part of the pathways. So when you take Roundup, what this does, it strips iron, cobalt, molybdenum, copper, and other rare metals associated with celiac disease. Now they're questioning, are people just being poisoned from Roundup, or is it the wheat? Now deficiencies in tryptophan, that's going to keep you calm. Tyrosine, that's going to keep you happy. Methionine and selenomethionine is depleted because of this. Now you remember this word right here, selenomethionine. Keep that word in your head. Let me ask you a question. There's in Detroit. Unemployment's 40%, right? It looks horrible. Looks like a horror movie should be done there. It's a complete catastrophe. I got a good idea. Severstal, a steel plant that's one of Metro Detroit's biggest polluters, wants to release more chemicals, more heavy metals into the air by hundreds of times more. They just put a permit out to the Department of Environmental Quality on March 11th, this month. The changes revise a 2006 emissions permit would approve releasing more than 725 times more lead into the air from the plant. 725x lead. Now, the State Department of Environmental Quality says pollution wouldn't increase because it's what we've been doing for the last number of years. You know what it's like to talk to a kid that's full of lead? You just talk to him, huh? What? Huh? Duh. These kids they're dumb, they're slow, and their IQ is plummeting. Just the lead. Talking about any other heavy metal, you can talk about that, but they're going to dump 725 times more than they did. And you better be taking your minerals because minerals run interference for this. So you think, oh, I don't want to take anything. Exactly. You don't have to take anything. Just keep on your little Chinese supplements, all those synthetics. And you're going to absorb all this stuff, and you don't have to worry about too much because you'll be too dull to realize what just happened. Because it's happening right in front of you. Unbelievable. I want to thank Melissa for sharing this book with me from her family on odd bits. Thanks, Melissa. Thank your mom for that. If you want to know they used to treat disease in the olden days, this is a book from the 30s and 20s and 30s that I think was on the table at Melissa's house. How to cook the rest of the animal. There's a chapter on the head, and a chapter on the chest, and a chapter on the kidneys, how to cook them and eat them. If your brain was sick, you ate brain. If your eyes was sick, you ate eyeball. And I want to thank Melissa for bringing that eyeball stew to the potluck. Just kidding, Melissa. Yeah, nobody can eat a kidney like her. I'm going to pay for this at work somehow or another. From the tongue to the tail. And the doctors have been watching this stuff, so they're all watching this. So I want to put up a case I want you to watch. Migraines at the base of the skull, pain is worse lying down due to pressure, pain meds do not help, Darvocet, hydrocodone naproxen, this is what he takes every day. I'm amazed that people take stuff that doesn't help. And they just keep taking it even though it doesn't help. Only has migraines November to May, fell off a ladder, knocked unconscious, been to tons of doctors. I said to him, you've jarred your pituitary. So I said, either you can eat the pituitary or you can take those pituitary hypothalamus meat, and his headaches disappeared. I've had a lot of pituitary headaches lately. They're very interesting, one-sided headaches. So this guy can't believe that your pituitary, I said, you probably jarred your pituitary when you fell off the ladder. Interesting stuff. Look for pituitary headaches, they're out there. He hasn't had one since. I had my first patient come in. Remember, I don't really know much, so the patient was told, you need to see an oncologist. So I've had three patients so far that have been treated with phony cancer stuff by this guy. How many saw this stuff in the paper? Dr. Fatah. Well, he's billed Medicare $225 million from 06 to 12 on cancer. Lots of them didn't have it. So my first patient came in. Now, there's Clarkston, Bloomfield Hills, Troy, Oak Park, Rochester. He has one close to you. So you do not have to go far to be malpracticed on. It's just right around the corner. So George comes in, ITP, very low platelets and low iron. He jumped right into this thing and started asking me, but I would have probably said, well, he's not. This is a licensed, nobody wants to touch cancer because the feds will pistol whip you in the street. You do not monkey with the golden goose. You leave the golden goose alone or you're going to have trouble from the state. So he finds out, man, maybe I was hosed, picks up all his stuff, goes to a legitimate oncologist, and the oncologist says, you do not have cancer. He had a B6 anemia. Okay, his platelets, if you knew how to read this, his MCH, MCV, that stuff was down, his platelets were down. I had to put him on spleen, B6, chlorophyll sesame seed pearls. He's a new guy. All the numbers are coming up, and they misread that ITP, and he had 5 chemo treatments with Rituxan. That's one of the most toxic chemotherapy drugs that you can possibly take. And he never had cancer. He's got little kids. Now, what I can do to you when you have little kids, I can get you to poison yourself. Look, what about the kid? Don't you want to be around for the kid? What I'll get you to do, dangling a kid in front of you, I'll get you to do anything. He's doing outstanding. He feels like he had a B6 anemia. You have to know how to read a blood test to understand this. The fear starts again. Measles still poses a threat despite being eliminated. Okay, I enjoy that. I really enjoy when, I've always been a big proponent. Before we carpet bomb a country, the first thing we got to do is vaccinate the kids. You do not want to bomb a child unless they've been properly immunized. I can't even make this stuff up. Now, because of our love for the Middle East, and we've showed a lot of love for the Middle East, the global plan now includes all the Middle East seeking to vaccinate 23 million people under the age of 5. Now, if I can vaccinate all those kids, do I have much of a problem down the road? Censored. Censored. Oh. I'm getting close. All right, I'm getting close to Joe. Oh, all right. I saved you the torture of Joe Biden being interviewed by Barbara Walters. She said, look, this whole plan's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. So Biden says, when Obama kills your job, you're liberated to spend more time with your kids. That's what he said. I can't even watch the clip because it grinds me. I'm saving you from watching Joe Biden. You're liberated. Well, how do we pay the bills? Don't bother me with the details. You're liberated. You're free. Freeze you. I had to put this up. I'm watching Jeopardy. Okay, trying to challenge. Come on. Does anybody watch Jeopardy and feel smart? No. I'm like, man, am I glad I'm not up there. I'm going to look like an idiot. This is Dr. Tent. I'm just going to hide behind the thing. So this lady's on there, typical middle-aged lady, and when Alex is talking there, he said, I see you're a happyologist. A happyologist. I don't know what it was. Trebek didn't know what it was. So he's looking at this average woman and said, so you're a happyologist. Is that the study of the Hopi Indians? And she said, no, it's the study of war. On the outcome for the winners and the losers. We study war. So Alex, well, that's interesting. What's the most common reason for war? Oh, she said, oh, that's easy. Overpopulation. Did anybody see that on Jeopardy? I'd like, and Alex is like, testing, 1, 2, 3. And I just went, yes. And this lady, Kelly found this, whoever this person is, put this on Twitter, which I'm not on. Why do countries go to war? Thinning down the herd. And she acted like, oh, don't you understand? That's easy. Fun. Look this gal up, Bronwyn Dela Cruz. It's funny watching the last time a little kid's science project that I talked about 10 years ago, a little girl scooped up some water in the creek behind her house, and she took and gave it to a lab. And they found 47 pharmaceuticals in the creek behind your house. Prozac, Paxil, antibiotics, birth control, everything. name it all. And the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, was caught completely off guard, protecting us, which they're not protecting us. So this gal, her dad got her a Geiger counter and sent her to the store with the Geiger counter. Up in Canada, what she found was so catastrophic. Remember, in 2011, Fukushima happened. In 2012, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency stopped testing food for radiation. Think about it. I can't even make this stuff. Radiation's coming, stop testing. This is what they do. So this girl went, and what she found was a catastrophe. That Geiger counter lit up so bad, nothing was fit to eat. All this stuff coming from China and Japan was a catastrophe. And what she found, cesium-137, was found in the fish, 73% of the mackerel, the halibut, the sardines, the tuna, and the eel, cod and anchovies, seaweed. One sea bass sample at 1,000, that's huge. You're going to be poisoned from your food. So they stopped testing for this. There's a 500% increase in radiation on the beaches. Keep moving, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. Our computer module of, or the, whatever it is, of this. Now there's a reason I'm telling you this. It's not because of this. Let's listen. I'm leading you to something. This wonderful guy from Sri Lanka calls me. Nice guy. He's nauseous every day. He's lost 30 pounds. He's got bloody stools. He's got hemorrhoids. He's scared. This guy's scared. He got bedridden for days after his vaccines. He fell for the vaccine story. He eats organic. He's a vegetarian. He's exhausted the past 10 years. Fruit for breakfast, salad for lunch and dinner, undigested food in his stool. And this guy was scared, really scared. And since he dropped 30 pounds, I said to him, I think you've been poisoned with something. I don't know what, but that's what the symptoms are from being poisoned. There's his hair analysis. The arsenic ended on the page. I didn't know why, still don't know why. He's full of arsenic. All right. This article is on one of my medical sites, Green Med Info, which I'm a member of. I get lots of great stuff there. Glyphosate becomes extremely toxic to the kidneys when mixed with hard water or heavy metals like arsenic and cadmium, either naturally present or added through fertilizer. So Sri Lanka is absolutely in a huge global epidemic of toxicity, so bad that they banned Monsanto because everybody's dying of kidney failure. So now this is important. Glyphosate acts as a carrier or a vector of these heavy metals to the kidney. It's a chelator. So when Babcock talks about why are my athletes falling apart, the stuff that they put on the food pulls the minerals out of the body. So you're taking starving people and pulling stuff out of them. They're all falling apart faster. So now they know that this huge kidney epidemic is coming from weed killer because they're putting weed killer on our food. I mean, it's just incredible. I'm, glad that I tell these young kids that are all so sick and broke down, I say, look, I was 30 when genetically modified food came out. I was mostly formed. Can you imagine being formed with this stuff? Researchers said, while it's toxic, it is not capable to destroy the kidney that they're seeing in Sri Lanka and El Salvador. It's the second leading cause of death among men. Okay, I'll ask you a question. Who writes the news? Did you ever, when I was a kid traveling around, I remember I could see different news clips. Now, if you travel across the country, do you not hear like the same thing? Like word for word? Roll them. This is unbelievable. I don't know if you saw this or not.
A lot of people think the big news stories these days are, well, a judge ruling against snooping by the NSA or the big fight in Congress over the new proposed budget. A lot of people say those are the big stories. But judging by local news, and I've been looking at a lot of local news, there's an even bigger story that's sweeping the nation right now.
Who are you really shopping for this holiday season? It's okay, you can admit it, if you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Well, it's okay, you can admit it if you have bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it. You've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it, Todd. If you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it. If you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it. If you brought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought one.
That keeps going. We just cut that off. That'll go for a couple more minutes. That's who's writing your news. One person. Unbelievable. How many people were paying attention? What happened on Valentine's Day? Anybody pay attention in this crowd? What happened? I know Ernie. Ernie, I know you would. He's the only one. On February 14th, I came home and I saw a flash on ABC News. And that was scrubbed so fast, that disappeared like this. In Carlsbad, New Mexico, that's the radioactive dump in the United States. You put it in salt mines. They have 60,000 drums of plutonium and americanium or one of those odd isotopes. 60,000 drums. Something bad happened in Carlsbad, New Mexico. There's been a huge radiation, and this thing was scrubbed instantly. Pardon? It was on the internet.
Yeah, that's how I found out. That's not on the internet.
So now, plutonium-236 started spilling out of this hole. Now, you don't understand plutonium-236. Plutonium-236 has a half-life of 250 million years. 250 million years to degrade halfway. One sugar cube, a gram is the size of a sugar cube. 1 gram will kill 10 million people. This is leaked out. They picked it up in the neighboring communities. It spread. Now I'm talking a dust particle is going to kill you. A dust particle. If you saw a sunbeam mote, that's fatal. There's nothing more fatal than plutonium, polonium. These things are horrible. They offered free CAT scans to a 100-mile radius to the people living in that area, and a CAT scan won't show it up. That's why they offered it. But this has been scrubbed. Now I'm going back. Remember I said, remember the selenomethionine. Remember that. This is a catastrophe that's been scrubbed. You're seeing little bits and pieces, but this ain't a big thing. They can't even get in the hole. They're afraid that the ceiling might have collapsed on part of it. And there's no way to stop this. Zero. Impossible. This was in the Drudge yesterday. Now, it's just low-level radiation. It's not going to be much of a thing. The stuff down there is not stuff to fool with. This is 60,000 drums. Huge. If you look this up on YouTube, that's Arnie Gunderson. It's a 12-minute clip that I don't really have time to do, but people can find this easily. The whole story's there, and man, I'll tell you, there's a reason I'm showing this to you. Now, they can't test plutonium studies on people because volunteers were tough to find. I think they should start in Washington and work east. The dogs, 1.5 to 5 years, died. So watch, and now remember, lung cancer, bone tumors, lung and bone. Lung cancers are coming in now to my office on people who've never smoked. Healthy patients are coming in. Now I'm going to give you a secret. The selenomethionine that the Roundup is pulling out of you and the iodine run interference for polonium-210. The best chance you have on your lungs is trying to run interference for the radiation, because this is not stuff to play with. This is going to smoke you. And it's going to smoke you fast and slow and painful. So the stuff that the Roundup's chelating runs interference for some of the parts of radiation. Very important. This is how they checked it. So all you animal lovers, oh, look at them making them breathe plutonium. We want you to breathe it slower. We're just making the dogs going to breathe it faster. Oh, how dare they do this to the dogs? Especially floppy-eared beagles are serving as canine guinea pigs at the University of Utah, designed to investigate the hazards of radioactivity. So now the cancer that's the most common cancer is lung cancer. While smoking's going down, lung cancer's going up. That's very important to understand that. Lung, liver, etc., etc. Time magazine, this is good. This is last February 14th, Valentine's Day. They said children are being exposed to more brain-harming chemicals than ever before. So they went on to say, fluoride, make sure you get your kids fluoridated. These are all pesticides. Now, these chemicals, which are found in solids and pesticides, have been linked to deficits in social development and increased aggressive behavior. The consequence of such brain damage is an impaired central nervous system function that lasts a lifetime and might result in reduced intelligence. This isn't the lead, this is on top of the lead. Now add the lead as expressed in terms of lost IQ points. My teachers want to give up. True? I have to tell you, front row of teachers, is it true? They just want to give up because you can't get through to them, and if you say anything to them, the parents will call the school and blame it on you. Disruption in behavior. This was published in the Lancet journal Neurology. Mercury's on there, lead is on there, and arsenic is on your food. Now, look in this big picture, and I want you to walk through the nearest Walmart and take a look at them. That's my favorite place to people watch if I'm ever in there. Do daily multivitamins make you healthier? No, absolutely not. 96% of all the supplements are China sourced. You don't even, they're checking all these protein powders now. How many people saw that? What they're finding inside the vitamins and protein powders is a catastrophe. It's tungsten, lead, and cadmium. Everybody's using the same source. You are being poisoned with your vitamins. Don't waste your money on synthetic stuff. European Commission wants to ban heirloom seeds and criminalize plants and seeds not registered with the government. They're going to control food here. The truth about vitamin C. Everybody brings me in a vitamin that says ascorbic acid. That's not vitamin C. Tyrosinase is a copper enzyme that your body has to have to arm lymphocytes to fight infection. Vitamin P, that's Saruta Plus. That's what you stop people from bruising and bloody brushing teeth people. Vitamin K keeps your blood healthy. Vitamin J, they're just starting to discover. When I read a label, I want it to look like this. You bring me so much synthetic stuff thinking you paid $50 for it, it has to be good. It's synthetic. We don't even understand a blade of grass, let alone food. That's what your labels are supposed, that's the stuff I take. That's how I get away with the crummy diet. I take good supplements. This is food. Alfalfa flour, mushroom, magnesium, meat pieces. Now, here's how you make vitamin C. You start with corn syrup. So they start with high fructose corn syrup and poison it till they get down with this fine crystalline powder. You don't want ascorbic acid, but everybody thinks it's not ascorbic acid. Now I showed this before, but I want to show you a shortened version for your friends. I showed you a complicated way. This guy did a real simple way, and Kelly's going to bump this up a bit. I want you to watch how simple you can do this with your friends. It's very, very simple to do this.
All right, I got a box of Wheaties here and a magnet. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, editor of Natural News and director of the Natural News Forensic Food Labs. And I've been forced to respond by creating this video a third time. People accusing me of staging an elaborate hoax when I showed that you could use this magnet to pick up Wheaties because the Wheaties are filled with metal fragments. So there are metal fragments in the Wheaties cereal, and we'll get to that in a second. But first I want to show you this. This is a Nature's Path Organic. This is another kind of flake cereal. And I'm going to show you what happens when you try to pick up this cereal with a magnet. It doesn't work because Nature's Path Organic cereal is not filled with metal fragments. All right? So just going to show you that. I know this might be complicated for the people over at PR Newswire who don't understand magnetism, but I think everybody else will get this very quickly. So I'm just smashing the flakes with the magnet, and then you'll notice that the flakes do not stick to the magnet, right? Pretty clear about that? There's not flakes on the magnet. Why? Because they're not ferrous. They don't contain shards of metal, and so they don't stick to the magnet. Even if I take a pile of the flakes and I put it on the magnet and then I tip it, they all fall off. See? That's a normal cereal, no metal fragments. That's Nature's, whoa, out of focus, sorry, Nature's Path Organic. Now, let me get all this stuff out of the way here, and then I'm going to show you Wheaties, and apparently I'm going to amaze many people who are still, I guess they still think magnets are like voodoo or something. It's witchcraft. Yeah, that's what I'm using, witchcraft. Come on, Wheaties. Get out of, what the, come on. All right. Someone's holding on to their Wheaties. Sorry, I'm doing this with one hand. So here's regular Wheaties. No, I wasn't palming anything. All right, I know there's going to be some people that accuse me of that, whatever. These are real Wheaties. You can see them. You can see actually probably little fragments of metal in the Wheaties. Now watch. This is the magnet, again, free of Wheaties. I'm going to smash the Wheaties with this magnet. Not complicated, not a hoax. There's no green screen here, no photoshopping, whatever. And now look. Oh, look, the cereal sticks to the magnet. Why? Because it's full of metal fragments. There you go. Now watch. I'm going to do something that's going to absolutely amaze all the critics and the people at PR Newswire. Whoa, whoa, vertical, upside down. Oh my God, they're still staying on. So what's going on? I'm shaking it.
Your cereal's fortified with iron. Yeah. This is what you've been feeding your children. Now that's on top of the arsenic and the lead and the fluoride and the mercury and the Roundup and the plastics and the estrogen. You wonder why the kids look like they do? This is a catastrophe. I watch these kids come in here, absolute. My son's a motocross rider. He's in the back there. Dylan, stand up. Sitting next to my wife, back in the corner. And we went to Supercross to watch the motocross track. So what day was that? A couple weeks ago. Supercross. Any kids in here motocross? Oh, we went to Supercross, and I got a chance to see a good cross-section of these kids that are our children today. It was horrible. I was shocked. You can't start out this fat. You're going to work this way. You start out insulin resistant and half diabetic and you're 14, and here they sit with that gallon of pop, every single one of them, And I was disturbed. These kids don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. Unless you are on your toes and being very proactive, your kids are going to collapse. I just looked at, I said to Dylan, you watch this generation, they're not going to live to 50. This generation's not going to live to 50. You watch. This is going to be a catastrophe. So I want to mention this wonderful woman. I think she lives by New Beginnings. That church out in South Lyon, Karen Bushista of South Lyon, is suing the hospital, federal, and state governments for $100 million because they want to force her to get a flu shot. Yes.
I've had flu shots twice. They came together.
Well, she is this office, this lawyer, James Ellsman. He is going after them. I have nurses that are pregnant that had to get a flu shot pregnant while their fetus is developing inside of them. Think about that. To keep a crappy job. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And somebody should take this whole system down because they don't even have literature to back up what they're doing. This is a catastrophe. Sugar. Understanding Obama. People thought I was going to come here. Big Farm and Monsanto love Obamacare. Now, people think Obamacare. I had comments of people. I want to come to your lecture. I want to find out how to get out of it. I want to come to your lecture. I want to find out. This isn't what it's about. What it's about, what makes everybody sick. Sugar. The hardest thing I think is difficult to deal with because who doesn't like sugar? Because today you're not eating real sugar. You're eating sugar that's been monkeyed with. Now, what's the secret about monkeyed up sugar? Monkeyed up sugar doesn't tell your pancreas that you ate sugar. That's the secret. You eat one, you don't feel like you eat a second, you eat a third, you eat a fourth. Real sugar says, stop. I've had sugar. That's the entire secret of sugar. Cane sugar, a Mexican Coke. Who's had a Mexican Coke here? How good does that taste? It's real Coke. There's cane sugar in it. One is fine. Sugar, now I said at a lecture, Kelly said I can get a picture of this. I said you don't have to. I've used this example before. I remember they had a Woodstock documentary one day. I'm sitting there going through the channels on a Sunday. I went by Woodstock. It was after the rain. Everybody had their shirts off, and the camera was on the stage, and it panned the entire crowd. Find it. The entire crowd had a six-pack. There wasn't one overweight person in that entire, these are hundreds of thousands of people. Find it. Not one heavy person, and these weren't the athletes, these were the munchy people. What happened? There wasn't high fructose corn syrup then. There was real sugar then. Fructose. It's going to make your blood pressure go up. I just had a guy, Jim, stop sugar and wheat. His blood pressure went from 180/90 to 120/80. Stopping sugar and wheat as a diabetic. It dropped 60 points. This is last week. Number one cause of liver disease, besides Tylenol, non-alcoholic fatty liver. That's what your kid looks like. All those kids at the Ford Field are going into fatty liver. Their triglycerides are too high, their LDL's too high, they're little pre-diabetics. Cancer effects on the colon. Spreading breast cancer accelerates kidney disease, promotes obesity, raises uric acid. You want to know how much sugar you eat? Look at your uric acid. That goes up with sugar besides gout. Clogs up your arteries, gives you heart attacks and strokes, interstitial kidney disease, and promotes pancreatic cancer growth. Sugar started as an accident with the byproduct of 3 political wins, beginning with the Nixon administration. In '72, Nixon wanted to reduce food costs as part of his war on poverty, so he partnered with the USDA to do whatever it means to bring food costs down. So high fructose corn syrup was introduced, replacing sugar because it was cheap and readily available. It started in 1975. That was the year they threw me out of Stevenson. That was the year they threw me out of Stevenson. Yes. Oliver Weipert, I think, said, don't let the door hit you in the back when you go. Dietary fats were blamed for heart disease, which was a complete lie. So the low-fat craze started. Market response, they tried to make food without fat, and it tasted crappy. So they had to put sugar in it so you'd eat it. They pulled out the fat and crammed in high fructose corn syrup. That's when it started. Insulin resistance. You want to know what it's like to have insulin resistance? It's real simple. Go to the gym. I play hockey. Watch the guy at the gym that you see there every day. He's there constantly, and he has no definition to his body. He looks as flabby as when he started. That's how you can spot him. It's that simple. You're flabby. It doesn't matter what you do. And my hockey people back there, you've seen guys in locker rooms. I have some guys that are so fat, and they put skates on, and they're like a ballerina out there because they played hockey their whole life. I've watched guys skate 5 days a week in the locker room that were fat and didn't have a lick of definition from doing that. Those are my pre-diabetic people. What do you look like with your clothes off? Keep them on. Keep them on. Because I tell people, look at yourself. Look what you look like. I can't afford to be fit. I have changed things, and I'll tell you why as this goes on. Fatigue and sleepiness after a meal. I can't. I was 37 when I had to stop the carbohydrate train. I couldn't sleep well. My mind was crummy. I could eat anything till I was 37. Everything had to change at that year. Elevated blood sugar, intestinal bloating, depression. Kelly was having a bad day because she put depression on there twice. Kelly does a great job at the lecture, but she's having a better day. Increased fat storage and weight. I'm amazed at, and I know, you got to be nice to these folks because people are not all overeating. People are not, and people like, I don't eat as much as I look like I do. They don't know what to do. Now, I got serious about this because my glucose hit 99 playing hockey 3 times a week. I retired 6 years ago. I retired because a Sunday night game at 10:30 when it's 0 out stinks. Who wants to go out at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night? I can do. What time is it? My game is at 9 o'clock tonight in 20 minutes, and I'm missing my game. 9 o'clock Wednesday is a lot better than 10 o'clock Sunday night. So I stopped, my glucose went up, my triglycerides went up, I started getting fat. Stopping exercising in the middle was a catastrophe. Everything that I had perfectly controlled headed straight up. Everything. So I'm like, waking up my thyroid, waking up my adrenal glands. I went back to hockey, and I'm not going to stop. I've been doing 4 times a week. I got my pulse down to about 55 right now, which I'm very happy with. And I feel very good, and I'm afraid to stop because of what happened last time. So my glucose hit 99. That was the beginning of taking this seriously. My triglycerides went up to 244. They were always 80. Cholesterol 190, triglycerides 80. So then up to 99, elevated triglycerides over my cholesterol, insulin resistance. Eat food, make insulin, cells resist insulin, sugar stores as fat, feel tired and hungry, eat food. It's a cycle. Cholesterol up, HDL down, everything up. LDL, triglycerides, glucose. I've had triglycerides since the last lecture, walking in at Ray, 2,709. 2,709. You'll see a 900 I don't know if she is, what's her name here with the 900? Insulin resistant, heart attacks, liver problems, triglycerides, bad good cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, fat, neurologic changes, depression, heart failure, blood clots, polycystic ovaries, and you can't sleep. Sugar promotes cancer. People say, I got cancer. What do? Stop eating sugar. You have to stop sugar because it's the only thing they say that feeds cancer. You'll never hear an oncologist tell you to stop eating sugar. I want you to ask him, should I stop eating sugar? He's going to tell you no. No. There's nothing wrong with sugar. It feeds cancer. Metabolic syndrome. There's a lot of words that are the same. You see all these words out there. Fasting glucose above 95, LDL down, HDL HDL down, triglycerides over the cholesterol. That's very important. These are the little markers as you're starting to slide backwards. Your cortisol's up. I had a guy up north that did a great job as a diabetic, and then his kid was murdered. His glucose went up about 120 points from where I had him. I had him down to about 120, 110 fasting. As soon as his kid was murdered, he was running about a 240, 250 glucose, and it was very difficult. The stress kills diabetics. When your cortisol goes up, your sugar is going to follow. Stress kills diabetics, which means you have to treat the adrenal glands to push them down because they'll feed the sugar. Now, diabetes, anything above 125. Hemoglobin A1C, this tells how you're eating. Urinary glucose up. You shouldn't be spilling glucose in your urine. It'll take out your kidneys. Triglycerides over the cholesterol, HDL decreased. Elevated BUN, CO2 levels decreased. That's a B vitamin sign, too much lactic acid. Now, I've done this forever. They finally called it intermittent fasting, scheduled eating. Scheduled eating. You do not want to eat constantly. A recent human study confirmed that intermittent fasting was actually more effective for weight loss and improving insulin resistance than daily caloric restriction. It's better. Skip breakfast. I do a huge shake for breakfast. I do my SP Complete Nitro Greens. I put the PDCN, the Bio-D-Emulsion, and the Calcifood powder, which stopped me from breaking something as hard as I fell. Every morning, that's what I don't want to eat in the morning. It slows me down. I don't know who tells you to eat in the morning. I feel tired if I eat in the morning. I don't want to eat till after. My biggest meal every day is lunch. I do not want to eat in the morning. I do a great shake. So you're going to boil down eating to 8 hours. You got 8 hours. 11 and 7. I'm about 1 and 9. I've done this forever because I feel the best doing this. Now they got a name on it. Skipping breakfast, making lunch your first meal of the day. You're fasting 16 hours a day, and you'll start burning fat before you eat again. Very simple to do. Very simple to do. Do an intelligent shake. I want food shakes. The ketogenic diet. 65% fat, 30% protein. All you do is feel awake, have endless energy, you sleep like a log, and you start to shrink. Very simple. Very simple. 50 to 80% of the calories coming from fats. What's a fat? Grass-fed stuff, coconut oil, olive oil, nuts, healthy nuts. My wife buys healthy nuts that I have to eat more of because I'll eat some crummy ones and I should eat more of the healthy ones. The ketogenic diet improves insulin sensitivity. You have to, now, this isn't easy to do. I'm going to tell you how I did this because it's easier to do than you think it is. I did it. It worked very well. When your glucose goes up in the 90s, and your hemoglobin A1C starts to go up, your brain starts to shrink. They're calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. Alzheimer's. If you want to preserve your brain, get your sugar down. We're doing good, Kelly. Caloric restriction is not the key to increasing life. Lowering insulin levels is. Get your insulin down. Sugars and grains. Who eats a bunch of wheat and feels good? Who eats pancakes and doesn't go to sleep? I can't eat like this anymore. It makes me tired. I watch stuff people eat. I can't believe the stuff they'll eat at lunch. I'm going to go to sleep eating that. Insulin speeds up the aging process. If you want to stay out of the doctor's office, get your sugar down. And everybody, now 80% of you have to pay attention to this. 20% of you can ignore this forever. 20% of my patients can get away with anything. They can eat anything, they can process anything. This doesn't even apply to everybody, most of you. B vitamins, that's that CO2 thing. This pill saved my fanny at 37. This is what a B vitamin looks like. Bovine liver, beetroot, nutritional yeast, duodenum, defatted wheat germ. It's food. Nature has B as a complicated food. I remember at 37 was the first time I took that pill. My brain changed. I was at a miserable blood sugar time. I took 17 Cataplex B. I tested for 17. I took 17 Cataplex B, and my brain woke up in an hour and a half, and I've never missed that since that day, because the sugar had sucked the life out of my frontal cortex. This is your thiamine-dependent cortex. You know what happens when you run out of B? You know what happens? Let's see. When you run out of B, let's think about your kids. Ron, did me and you stay home much? Did our parents really know where we were? Did they have a clue where we were? No. We just had to check in before school started the next day. He knows where the bodies are buried. You want to talk to Ron? Ron knows. We were on the loose 24/7, and we had a blast. It was sad, but we had a blast. Today's kids are sitting in the basement with a video game. They don't want a girl. They don't want a car. They're going to sit there, play a stupid video game, and not want to do anything because they don't. The frank avoidance of the friction of social contact is a B deficiency. Now remember that. The frank avoidance of the friction of social contact. People don't want to. I took 10 Cataplex B, 3 Mediherb Ginkgo, and a protein shake before I came. I took all that at 6:30. That's the last thing I did when I got out of the shower. I got my frontal cortex on edge. I got my blood sugar stable, and I ate nothing to keep my brain on task up here. Number one, the frank avoidance of the friction of social contact. The kids don't want to leave the house. We were never at the house. Number two, a constant feeling that something horrible is going to happen. Unrealistic fears. You people, not necessarily you, the Americans are scared to death of the Al-Qaeda, of the Muslims, of the guns, of the flu, of the whites, of the blacks. Turn on the news. It's all built on fear. And that deficiency allows you to be played like a fiddle because you've lost the ability to... Charles Schultz on 60 Minutes, one of the stories I use at the office, they interviewed a guy that drew cartoons at home and sent them in and made $1 zillion selling Snoopy to everybody. They asked him, 60 Minutes, do you have any regrets? He said, yes, I do. I've lived my entire life in a constant state of fear and impending doom. He is rich, loaded, did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and he was scared to death because he didn't have any B vitamins in his brain. And when it gets really low, your kid's going to collapse in the middle of soccer and die. Anybody know anybody like that? That's why these kids are collapsing, because their heart's going out of rhythm. That's why the marathon runners died. That's what they were missing. All these athletes that are dropping. Joey Harrington went down because he didn't have enough B to run his heart. But I have to take the statins. My heart doctor said I had to. All the tests say statins harm the heart. This statin worsens ventricular function, diastolic function. This one makes LDL worse. This one induces heart failure. This one causes atrial fibrillation. This is in a medical journal. Every diabetic comes on taking a drug that's making them more diabetic. This I have to come back from lunch and have a guy on Lipitor that's a diabetic. I said, did you know that this pill's making you more diabetic? No. So they go and ask her, the doctor says, well, you need it. The new warning label on the statins is liver damage, memory loss, diabetes, confusion. It's causing, you watch a 50-year-old guy on 10 years of Lipitor. They can't find the bathroom in the office. It's sucking your brain's fat and cholesterol. They're killing. Go to Sunrise and visit my dad. He's high triglycerides, he's high cholesterol, high triglycerides. I've kept his arteries open. My dad's the only one you're going to be able to talk to at Sunrise because all the rest of them are absolutely brain dead. And they said to my dad, we're going to put you on some statins. He said, I'm going to look like the rest of these people then. They have every diabetic comes in taking this that says it causes 60,000 people get diabetes every year just from the statins. And to have a diabetic not taking one is not going to happen. Pharmaceuticals that induce diabetes, diuretics, statins, beta blockers, antipsychotic agents, and steroids. And I want to say hi to the power lifter yesterday that I Skyped with. His glucose went up to 350. He's doing the right diet and he's power lifting. This was yesterday, a great patient. Now look, when I get on the air with these Skype patients, I said, have you watched my lecture? He said, have you watched all my lectures? How far did you drive to come here today?
11 hours.
11 hours. She came from Philadelphia. These Skype patients have watched every lecture 4 times by the time I get on. They're so excited. You're a rock star. You're a movie star. And Ron knows I'm an idiot. Ask Ron. He'll tell you I'm not a rock star. They watched every lecture. One lady said, I watched the autoimmune lecture 9 times. You pushed me into doing this because I don't think you're learning this stuff anywhere. And Ron would tell you, I never once said I wanted to be a doctor in my entire life, did I? No. Ever. This would be the farthest hallucination from Kevin Quadlin's stuff that he used to hide under the glove box. So yesterday, I'm looking at this dude with he went up to 350, and this monster, this big power lifter, took up the entire screen, and I'm looking at this guy. And I said, you took steroids, didn't you? Yes. I said, you didn't tell me that, did you? How come this isn't on your file? Well, I didn't put it in my file. I said, the only way you got your glucose up to 350 working out how I would tell you to work out is if you were taking steroids. He said, you caught me. I said, yes, I did. That's how you went up to 350. Steroids will cause you to turn diabetic. I'm going to share some stuff how we're doing this. This lady'd had it. She's been a long-term patient. All of a sudden, she got serious right there. I'm sick of insulin. I'm sick of taking this stuff. I'm sick of being fat. I'll show you what she did. This is her progression. Cholesterol went from 322, 195, 921 triglycerides. She's 201. HDL up. The ratio is in range. Her glucose is 121. And I didn't tell her to do this. She only uses insulin once in a while. She's going to eat herself right out of the insulin and she's bringing her health back to life. Phase 1 diet. Meat and protein, green vegetables, nuts, seeds, and cold fats. You'll see this later. What I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to show you, this lady came in. She's an executive. She's 43 years old. This is recent. I said, I'm going to talk about something special at the lecture. I said, how would you like to do this and be an example? I don't even know if she's here or not because I can't really tell. I said, all right, I'm going to put you on this 10-day thing. These are for the serious people that are in trouble. This is what she came in with. I said, I'm going to have you do something for 10 days. 10 days. This is horrible numbers. 1,790 triglycerides. Now, she's an executive assistant. I mean, she's an intelligent. So 10 days later, she went from 300 to 177. Her triglycerides went from 1,790 to 392. Her cholesterol went from 339 to 165. Now, if you notice, I want you to understand something. The hemoglobin A1C went from 10.7. That's a 2-month window, approximately. So that would take a longer time. It'd take a couple months of her eating right for that to go down. That one's not going to move. That's a long-term picture of how you're eating. Now, this very aggressive, this is not for most of you. This very aggressive, there's a little packet that comes with. This is from the company. I talked to one of the guys, and he said, look, I got some slides that you can use. So this is their little can thing. Now, this is that SP Complete was 3 shakes a day. I'm going to go over what this is. 10 days. You got to be serious. I would never have to do anything like that because I would probably die if I tried to do this. I don't want to eat that healthy. That's going to bother me. Are you gaining fat around your waistline, hungry between meals, blurry eyesight, bad circulation, waking up at night, etc., etc.? There's 2 phases. The serious one's phase 1. Was 15 SP cleanse, 15 Diaplex, 4 Gymnema, and 3 shakes a day following the phase 1 diet, which you'll see what that is in a second. It's very aggressive. I didn't do anything like this. That's my breakfast. I want food. All that is raw kelp, alfalfa. This is assayed. There's no heavy metals in this. There's no tungsten, no lead. You're not going to... You better be very fussy, the shakes and the pills that you're taking, because they're all coming out of China, and you don't want to know what's in them. SP Cleanse is 20 whole food ingredients. That's 5 3 times a day for 10 days. Juniper, red clover, etc., etc. That's 5 3 times a day. This is for serious people that are in big trouble. Gymnema, this is important. It's a pharmaceutical grade Gymnema. This is out of Australia. It's all assayed stuff. Gymnema helps to rebuild and repair the beta cells in the pancreas that produce insulin. Rebuild and repair, rebuild and repair. That's very, very important. You want to repair your pancreas. Now, believe it or not, fruit has a lot of insulin stuff associated with it. People don't want to believe that. Fruit juices, soda, some vegetables, white rice, white bread, pasta, milk, snack food, sweets. It's the simple sugars that get most of the credit for causing it. Now, fruit has fiber, which helps that, and it's no comparison to soda, but still, I have some serious fruit junkies that are making their sugar crazy. You can't eat that much fruit. I'll tell you what I consider. I don't want you to juice more than you can eat. Okay? I would consider that the rule of thumb. Aspartame does nothing except make you diabetic. That was a scam for 20 years. That was a complete scam. Here's your hypoglycemic stuff. Now, people, to get serious about this, we're going to show you the blood work at the end that you can run. You want to see what a starting point looks like. What your numbers look like tells how you're going to play this. I killed my sugar cravings. I killed my carbohydrate cravings. I dropped 20 pounds doing nothing. Eating the same junk I've eaten. I just killed my appetite, burned out all this stuff easy. And by the time 70 of you patients said to me, you're losing weight, and I said, no, I'm not. You're losing weight. I said, no, I'm not. You're losing weight. Finally, after hearing 70 of you say that, I got in the scale, and I was down almost 20 pounds, which I've never done in my life. I've never lost a pound of weight. I didn't really care. I'm going to exercise. That's my thing. Cataplex B is your hypoglycemic. These are the people that the heart's going strange, they're depressed, they're worriers, they're afraid of everything, they're fatigued after meals. One of my vice chairmen of one of the big companies called me and said, Randy, I fall asleep after lunch. Take your Cataplex B at lunch. Never fell asleep again. Cataplex, these are the hypertensive ones. These are the hypoglycemics, the hyperglycemics. You need to know what your blood looks like, how to play this. And these are much more anxious patients, depressed patients, anxious patients, worriers, high blood pressure, hypertensive. Now, I've done 4 GTF, 4 Gymnema, and 4 berberine with 2 shakes a day, and I've become a habit because I'm getting more energy out of less food. I'm less insulin resistant, so I can eat half as much and get twice as much energy. That's what happened. And it was easy to do this. It was surprisingly easy, and I'm in a groove that I'm going to stay in because I got more energy, I feel better, I eat half as much, my appetite's been suppressed amazingly. Now, it's kind of important, when you're full, stop. You don't have to inhale the entire plate. I remember when I was up in Toronto with that hernia thing, I'm full so fast now because I took my shakes with me. This is my little routine. It's working great. And I watch these people. I want to ask them, did your mother beat you if you didn't clean your plate? You've seen people like that could lick the entire plate, even the stuff they don't even like. Why do you have to do this? I walk away from half my lunch every day. The day I think we went out, the day we went to lunch, I didn't finish it, I'm done. It's been easy to kill my appetite with food. I've taken 2 of these twice a day. I did it today. And this is why. This is food. Bovine liver, nutritional yeast. That's where I want my chromium from. Dried buckwheat, and there's pancreas in it. That and the Gymnema helps bring my pancreas back to life. I took my glucose from 99 to 81. I took my triglycerides from 244 to 166, and I didn't do anything. It was extremely easy, which is why I'm passing this stuff along, because your blood sugar is going to kill you early. Berberine. This can bother your stomach a bit, but it's fantastic. This works like metformin. And 2 of each twice a day with the shakes. Gymnema, diabetes, hyperglycemia, hypo. Herbs are drugs. Learn to use this stuff because they're going to take it away from you.
Can you go back to that spelling of berberine?
Berberine. It can be irritating on your stomach, but it works outstandingly and it's worth trying. Call the office, they can help you with some of this stuff. Insulin resistance, I did not want to see 100 on my glucose. That was it. Now the diabetics can have different support. This can work good for them. The diet just depends on what your numbers look, what kind of combination. These are my reactive hypoglycemics. Most people go down before they go up. I see more people with these huge blood sugar swings than anything. These are the people who can't stay asleep at night. More energy with less food. Hockey games, food. Meal replacement, I did the Gamma Octapro to Whey Pro Complete tonight at 6:30. I wanted straight protein. That's my meal. I'm not going to eat this. This is cruciferous vegetables, sprouts, and cereal grasses. I'm not going to eat these, so I drink it. I can live off those 2 things. You have to be well fed because you're starving to death. My patients are starving to death. You eat constantly because there's nothing in the food. If you expect this to work, you use your intelligent supplements for sugar and you feed yourself well. I'm so well fed before I leave the house, I could have went to 6 on with the shake that I took this morning without even thinking about it. I can do that shake at dinner. I can do this at dinner. I'm not going to eat anything this good. Popcorn, nuts, pretzels, and candy. I get my sweets, and I've set the bar for everything way down. So I can there's a stop to eating sugar. It doesn't go on forever. So this little cocktail has worked I feel so much better, lighter, and skating better. Everything's surprisingly, food slows me down. I don't want to eat all this stuff anymore because it's all toxic. The less I eat, the better I feel, but I need to replace it with something. Learn to use these food things because they're going to take those away next. It's easy to replace 2 meals a day. I eat a normal lunch. And I want to tell you, I eat commercial food for lunch I have my little routine around here that I circle in. My little restaurants, I got my little route here. 3 parts that sugar takes out. It takes out your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves, and your blood vessels. You've got to keep sugar. It's going to chew up your nerves. Sugar is going to chew up your brain. I'm going to save this guy for my next lecture. This will be a good story I'm going to try to bring him to that. This guy's going to see this. I Skype with this guy, Tim, from Missouri. We cut off his pictures. He sent a picture. He sent up all his pictures. Muscular dystrophy. He said, I watched, how many people saw America's Mineral Crisis? Okay, that lecture. So I Skyped with this guy. He said, Dr. Tent, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm a rock star again. And he says, I'm so excited to meet you. He said, I watched your lecture and I wept. He's 60 years old. He said, I absolutely wept. Why? I knew exactly why. And Kim was sitting next to me with this guy. And I looked at her. I said, this is the impact that these lectures have had. He said, I thought I had a genetic disease. He said, you mean to tell me this is a deficiency all these years? I've been raised, he said, I am a major fundraiser for muscular dystrophy, me and my father for 60 years. He said, I have been duped, I have been tricked, I am ashamed at what I did. He said, I just sat and wept, and we were like, holy cow. I don't see this impact that these lectures are having. So this guy was disturbed that he had been fooled as a genetic thing, which you'll have to watch the lecture to get that right, to understand what it is. 30% was the supplements. 30% was exercise. I want you to think about finding something you like to do. I could play hockey 4 days a week easily. I could do every other day easily. I could play every day. I play enough that I'm toned enough to do that. We have a blast playing hockey. We play serious adult men's hockey. This is not little serious stuff, serious players, and we have a blast doing it. And I'll tell you, I'm even going to say this. I am pleasantly impressed how polite most of the men are that I play hockey with. Despite how rough this looks, everybody pretty much surprisingly watches out for each other. More than you girls will kill each other. I watch girls, there's girls, AAA girls playing before us when I go to the rink. You guys will slice each other's throats with that stick. Girls are vicious. You watch the girls in sports, they are vicious. And the guys would surprise you. As tough as we play, we still aren't trying to kill each other, even though it looks like we are. New statin guidelines, they want to put it in the water now. Now, you don't have to go to the doctor today, because I'm afraid to tell you about the doctors, because when my patients go to the doctor for some blood work, they got to fight off a tetanus shot, they got to fight off a flu shot, they got to fight off a colonoscopy, they have to fight everything off. They can't just go get something. It always reminds me of Green Acres with Mr. Haney. Have I got a deal for you? They're always peddling. I can't get anything done. Last week, I had 2 people that got E. coli from a colonoscopy. 2. One of my friends, Mary, Mary, last name starts with an S, she called. She said, my insurance company at Ford says I got to get a colonoscopy if I want a preferred rate. I don't want a colonoscopy. I've had a number of patients that their friends or relatives have had a hole punched through their colon. See, one lady said, my brother-in-law is an alcoholic. And they talked him into a colonoscopy. Alcoholics are fragile. Their thin blood has cost them. They're very easy to poke a hole through. And when these two patients came in and said, how did I get E. coli from this test? I said, they put somebody else's poop in your can. That wasn't your E. coli. That was Hank's E. coli. They're supposed to hand wash that tube for 30 minutes before you get it. A 30-minute hand washing. So my day, you wouldn't believe. Now the tests, let me see where I'm at here. I'm almost done. Yes, huh? The blog? Yes. Jeff has done a fantastic job on our blog. We have all kinds of interesting things. He's doing a great job. He's really out there hunting and learning and Skyping and helping me out a lot. So we have some interesting articles. That New England Journal of Medicine article's up on that. Now to get a baseline where you're at, $97. I'll have Kelly put this up for you. This is where I go. It's in Livonia, 6 in Farmington and Schoolcraft. Got my testosterone. Look at this. You cannot beat that price for those tests. $97. Doctors are charging $2,000 for this. I know doctors well are charging $2 or $3,000. You get to pick up a slip at the office. They won't do that unless you got a slip. Simple. Check your hemoglobin A1C. Mine's 5.1. My testosterone was low. I have weenie boy characteristics. I said, anybody over 50, expect your testosterone to be low because you're being pounded with estrogen. The men are being expected. I have very few people, and the men that come in with high testosterone, well, they have a stroke then about 6 months later. So if you want to get your testosterone up high enough, you just might have a stroke or something, because I'm watching, they're killing my patients with that stuff. Now, if you have any questions, I want to thank all you. It's on 9:10. This is pretty. I could catch the second half of my game if I ran. All our stuff's on YouTube on this website. I want to thank everybody for coming. I will not be here in August. We'll have some interesting stories about the doctor lecture, which is going to be interesting. I want to thank all of you coming. Kelly will put that stuff back up for the test, and I will talk to you in December.
Hi, I'm Arnie Gunderson for Fairwinds. We have a slightly different format today because I'm out of the office preparing testimony as an expert witness in a nuclear safety case. In addition to the continuing releases from the Fukushima Daiichi triple meltdowns, our focus today is on a U.S. nuclear waste project in New Mexico that's contaminated workers and is leaking radioactivity into the surrounding environment. Located in Carlsbad, New Mexico, this Department of Energy, that's the DOE, experimental nuclear waste dump, is attempting to store leftover radioactive plutonium and americium from the U.S. weapons program. For those of you who follow nuclear waste storage issues, you'd know that americium has a radioactive half-life of several hundred years, while plutonium is radioactive for 250,000 years. Fairwinds Energy Education has received many questions about this serious nuclear safety failure. We have continuously been updating this issue on the Fairwinds Twitter feed, the Fairwinds Facebook page, and in press interviews. Common Dreams has also posted 4 separate and complete interviews with me on this calamity. And we've placed those links at the end of this video, on the page following the transcript, on our Facebook page, and on our Twitter feed. So what is this waste isolation pilot project called the WIP? Nuclear power and nuclear weapons both leave toxic remnants, in other words, toxic trash, that must be isolated for hundreds of thousands of years. Because this waste is highly toxic radioactive debris, it has to be locked away so it doesn't migrate into the air we breathe the water we drink, or the food we eat. The nuclear weapons industry and the nuclear power industry claim that this toxic material is not a problem, and it's safe to store in underground salt mines, which they hope are impervious to water and therefore will not allow this toxic nuclear debris to migrate. On the other hand, many state legislatures, city councils, intervenor groups, landlords, and farms near the site, as well as environmental groups, worry that no site in the world can accommodate and store such toxic nuclear debris for 250,000 years. The Carlsbad, New Mexico Waste Isolation Storage Project is located in a salt mine that's a half a mile underground. The United States DOE calls this a pilot project because it's been receiving high-level nuclear waste for more than 10 years as part of this experimental waste system. This mine, just like any other mine, continuously removes the stale air inside and draws fresh air through a large system of huge fans that sit on the surface at the top of the mine, and it pulls the stale air out, allowing for fresh air to come back in. On the evening of Valentine's Day, something dangerous happened underground. DOE calls it an event, but in my book it's a euphemism, it's a slick word for a nuclear safety failure. It was a leak, it was a spill. Fairbanks has been quoted about this whip calamity in Common Dreams ever since February 17th. What do we know? Well, we certainly don't know enough because the DOE has not been honest with us, and in typical US government fashion, we're only getting small bits of the actual nuclear safety failure at the whip. This is what DOE has told us so far. 1. On the night of February 14th, radiation detectors in the ventilation system at WIP detected radiation in the exhaust air being released from the salt mine. That exhaust air contained plutonium and americium, two types of radiation that are extremely dangerous if they're inhaled, even in minuscule quantities. At first, DOE claimed no one was in the mine when the radiation was released, and that their night shift personnel were in a separate building, and therefore they weren't exposed to any radiation. DOE also claims that radiation filters were turned on within 1 minute of the radiation release, so that those filters immediately began filtering the ventilation air being expelled from the nuclear waste storage salt mine. Now we've learned that land above ground at this dump site has been contaminated at least out in a half a mile circle. And we've also learned that radiation has been detected off-site as far away as in the surrounding communities. Last Thursday, February 27th, almost 2 weeks after these radioactive leaks and the nuclear safety failure, the Department of Energy announced that 13 workers who were on site on Valentine's Day when the roof inside the mine collapsed had tested positive for internal radiation exposure. The internal dose of radiation was detected in these workers' urine. More than 2 weeks after the toxic leak, the Department of Energy finally announced that all the WIP workers that came on site on February 15th would also be tested to see if they had been contaminated. There's more than 650 employees that work on the site in the day shift. Lastly, the Department of Energy claims that no personnel have been allowed to re-enter the mine since this severe radioactive leak was discovered. But what really happened at the WIP? Whistleblowers and family members of the mine workers claim that the ceiling in one portion of the mine collapsed, and that when the ceiling collapsed, it fell directly on top of canisters that are storing the highly radioactive nuclear debris. And that caused the canisters to rupture and to spew the radioactive contents throughout the mine and in a radioactive plume that moved off-site. Based on the minimal data we've gotten from DOE so far, and it's couched in nuke speak, it's Farron's opinion that 1, The Department of Energy hasn't told us nearly enough information, and independent scientists need more to assess the public health threats and the environmental contamination resulting from the radioactive debris erroneously discharged from the mine. 2, based on the fact that workers and land far outside the mine were contaminated, the underground portions of the mine are likely severely contaminated. 3, there are thousands of sealed canisters in that underground mine. At a minimum, one of the seals on one of those canisters failed, allowing the radiation to be released. But the mine roof has collapsed. And as claimed by people who are familiar with the site, it's possible that many canisters have failed in some other manner than just the seal at the top. And they've leaked toxic material that was intended to be secure for 250,000 years out the ventilation system. Such a major leak would leave extensive underground contamination and make that portion of the mine inaccessible due to high levels of radiation. Next, filters are not perfect, and radiation is continuing to be released even though the filters are operational. Department of Energy claims that its filters are 99.9% effective. I don't believe that's true, but let's take them at their word for the sake of a mathematical comparison. 99.9% means that 999 minutes out of every 1,000 minutes, those filters capture every bit of radiation. But for 1 minute out of every 1,000 minutes, those filters capture nothing. Okay, let's do the math. A single day contains more than 1,400 minutes, and WIP has now been venting radiation for almost 3 weeks. 1 minute out of every 1,000 minutes multiplied by 3 weeks means that the mine has essentially been unfiltered for 30 minutes once the nuclear safety failure began. While the surrounding communities were initially exposed to a 1-minute burst of radiation at the beginning of this malfunction, now there's at least 30 minutes of radioactive air that has escaped from the mine unfiltered. And finally, as the National Academy of Science determined in its VIR 7 report on the biological effects of ionizing radiation, all man-made radiation causes damage, and there's no level that's simply okay. So we at Fairwinds have 4 major concerns. The first, how serious is this tragedy and how widespread is the radiation? A WIP press release offered to test anyone within 100 miles of the site for exposure to this man-made radiation. Can they mitigate the health effects too? Second, unless the workers were completely decontaminated and their clothes and shoes and personal belongings in their possession were destroyed when they got contaminated, some of the radioactivity went home with them and may have contaminated their families. Their families, their automobiles, their homes, their clothing, all should be tested, and they may need to be radioactively cleaned up. Did these workers stop at a grocery store on the way home or meet a friend for coffee? Were they wearing the same clothes home that they wore to work? These are not made-up concepts. The spread of radioactivity from nuclear workers and hospital workers or patients exposed to radioactivity who then bring that contamination home is a well-documented fact around the world. Third, what would happen if the roof collapse had not happened at night, but rather during the daytime when men were inside the mine? There would have been many physical casualties that would have been severely complicated by the high levels of radiation. The DOE was simply lucky that so far no one has died. Finally, nearby communities and environmental leaders have been concerned for years about water from fracking in the vicinity of the mine entering the salt and migrating into the mine. Is nearby fracking the cause of the roof collapse? We need to know the answers. We all need to keep the pressure on the Department of Energy to release more information. Right now, we all have lots of questions to keep asking federal authorities. I'm Arnie Gunderson, and I'll keep you informed.